to another episode of the Camper Report. Man, this is going to be a fun episode because we're going to do draft case scenarios for all four teams in the NFC West. Today I have joining me Bashar from 49er Minded Guys. I've had him on once before. It's been a while though. I do keep in touch with him a little bit, or I've watched his channel over the months since we've done our last show, but it's been quite a while. Thanks for joining me, Bashar.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. Thank you for bringing me on, and hopefully I can have you on my show sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure. I think this should be a fun show here. So if you obviously everyone 49er minded, so go check him out. Links are in the description. And if you want to go follow him on Twitter and YouTube, those links are in the description. Real quick, tell them what kind of content you make and what you've got coming out before we start.
Yeah, I mean, it's your typical 49er content where I bring on a lot of guests. I never do a show solo, although I was thinking about maybe possibly just doing a short little mock draft type show by myself one of these days, just a short little half an hour show. But usually I have somebody on. Lately, been getting a lot of people geared up for the draft, so we're doing a lot of mock draft stuff. 49ers mock draft, that is. But in the past, I did some Warriors stuff. Haven't really touched on the Warriors stuff this year. Maybe if they continue to play the playoffs, it looks like they might get ousted. Who knows what happens? But that's a little remains to be seen. And I actually just dropped a pro wrestling nostalgia show with Lawrence Jackson for Platform 246. We just did that together about an hour ago.
Shout out him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a 49er fan as well. He does a lot of 49er content, and he does a live wrestling stream. So I just hit him up one day and said, hey, maybe we should try to do some old school wrestling talk one day. And we finally got it out of the way today. So I just felt good. Unfortunately, when I was doing the show, I didn't have my good microphone selected. So I was talking into this, but it was just my laptop microphone that was picking up the whole time. But it is what it is. As long as people had fun with it and they enjoyed it, that's what matters the most.
Yeah, speaking of the Warriors and the NBA, I'm a Lakers fan, and I have been for now like 8 years. So, but anyways, they just lost. The series is tied between them and Memphis, and so
did they play today?
Yeah, they did. They
that's
just
early. Finished. I didn't even know they were playing. Wow.
Yeah. No, it was a weird game because I guess it's in Memphis, and Memphis is on Eastern time, so technically it was 7:30 over there, but it was a 5:30 game, which is interesting.
Yeah, okay, anyways. And it's not too out of the realm of the possibility. I mean, I've seen NBA games like that before, but I just had no idea that the Lakers were the game was going on. I was too busy trying to rush and get my show out of the way, and that's what slipped my mind. What was the score, or how close was it?
I believe the Lakers lost by 10. I can't remember the score, but I believe they lost by 10. They were never really leading at all during the game, which is interesting because the Grizzlies didn't have Morant.
Okay. I remember last year when Ja Morant got injured, statistically they were going off of things that happened in the regular season, and they were saying that the Grizzlies are a better team, or they play better statistically when he's off the floor.
Defensively, they are a better team, I think. It looks like it. I mean, last game they allowed the Lakers when he was out at the very end, but when he was in, they allowed him 116, 117 points before he went out. And so, yeah, I mean, I would agree defensively for sure, and maybe even offensively. They're definitely a good team all around. So anyways, guys, we'll get to the topics, though. Obviously, the topic of today, which we'll be mainly focusing on this, are draft scenarios for every NFC West team. So let's get to the first one. We're obviously going to just pick on 2 picks. The first 2 picks that this team has, we will say our draft prospects for the team. First up is the Cardinals. And what I will say here is this is, I think, the most intriguing kind of team, the Cardinals, because, they could stay at 3. They could get Jalen Carter or Anderson or what's his name? Or Tyree Wilson. Those are like the top 3. They need a defensive lineman. But there's obviously a lot of teams. Ian Rappaport did report that there are a lot of teams inquiring for that pick. But in my case, I'm like, you don't want to trade down farther than 6, because then let's say you trade down to pick number 7 or 8, once you get to that pick, you're already on the 5th or 6th best defender. And so I think if you're the Cardinals, the farthest you can trade down is number 6 without completely losing all of the top tier defenders, which are Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson, and Jalen Carter. So my thing is I think their top, they need to accumulate picks, but the Colts, Indianapolis Colts and Detroit Lions are the 2 teams that I think are going to be in the top contention for trading up for that number 3 pick.
Yeah, I mean, there is some flexibility there, so who knows? They may trade down.
Yeah, I would say, but they need so many things. It's like, I think they're top 3. I think at that pick, I think what you do is you trade down to number 6 with the Detroit Lions. I've said this before, and you maybe get, I don't know, pick number 18 in exchange from the Detroit, or maybe a second round pick, 2 seconds from Detroit. I mean, they have 5 picks in in the top 80 picks. They have 5 picks, Detroit. So, I mean, I think you trade down to 6 and you still could possibly snag either one of those 3 guys, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, or Jalen Carter. But I'd say my ideal draft scenario is Jalen Carter at the pick number 3. And then at pick number, they have, hold on, I think they have pick number 37. I think like Jahmyr Gibbs at that pick number 37 would be an intriguing prospect as well, because they need a running back. I mean, man, that running game has not been very good for years. And you have Jonathan Gannon, new coach coming in. So good to get a running back there.
Yeah, with the Cardinals, I mean, they could go in so many different directions. Jalen Carter is an interesting one, though. It wouldn't surprise me if they go that route. I'm thinking, though, with running back, I mean, who was that one guy that I like a lot? Bijan Robinson. Do you have any idea where he's slated to go in the draft? Is he more of a second rounder, or?
He's pick, I don't know. They would have to trade up. He's between pick 20 and 30, I would say, maybe even earlier. I think the tops for him are like pick number.
Yeah. So the Cardinals are picking at 30. They're picking at 34.
Chargers and maybe Cowboys.
I'm sorry, your voice will cut off so a bit, so I kind of cut you off because your voice. Yeah, so they're picking at 34.
No,
I'm thinking maybe
Bijan
Robinson might be available if they're looking to go for a running back. I'm not sure which running back would fit their scheme better, but I do like him a lot. I just been a big fan of watching Bijan Robinson. So,
yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs also has the speed. I mean, I think they're both in the same tier. I would class them. It's just that Bijan Robinson had slightly more work than Jahmyr Gibbs in college, but I just think that like they could go the more intriguing. I mean, this is the team where their picks could change. Like right now, their top 2 picks are pick number 3 and pick number 34. But those, like, they could have pick number 18 by the first round. Like they could trade with Detroit, and Detroit could give them pick number 18. And so their pick numbering could really change. They could have a lot more picks by draft day. So we don't really know their actually pick, if you know what I mean. So this is just kind of a expectation of where they're going to pick. So anyways, let's see. We will to some of the comments. Grandizer says, howdy, Benjamin. How was your school good, dinner good, Joey Fisher or bust? Yeah, I mean, I've been good, a little busy this week. I have spring break, but just quite busy. Joey Fisher, that's a guy I've heard in a while, but 8th round got the 49ers betting right tackle from Shepherd University. He says, what's up to Bashar, Grandizer, and then
what up, Grandizer?
The guests show kill my time. Prefer shorts. Guests are good once in a while. Yeah, I mean, I like to mix it up with a lot of different opinions. Again, I'll once in a while do a show by myself, but I don't know. I feel like if I do a show by myself, I don't know if you feel this same way, but if I do a show by myself, I feel like I'm ranting a lot of the times, so I don't really do it.
I've never done a show by myself because I feel like I'm like, okay, if I do a show by myself, I better have a whole bunch of people in chat. But sometimes I feel like if I go live, it's kind of a hit or miss where I may have a whole bunch of people on or I may not. So I just, for me, I'm all about the conversation, especially if it's someone I can jive well with. And it's always more fun for me. I just don't see it fun for me when I'm sitting there just talking to a camera and nobody, and I don't have a real person interacting with me. It feels weird for me, you know. But certain people are great at pulling it off. I know Niner Sickness, Beto was really good about it, and to what Grandizer was saying about the shorts. Oh, so shorts are, you know, we're in an era where people want it fast and they want it now, and they want it right away. In the shorts, you know, whenever I put up a short, those get instant views, huge. I'll put up shorts and breaking news or whatever, and they'll get, within a blink of an eye, I get 1,300 views. You know, I'm lucky if I get a live stream that has that kind of views, you know. So it is what it is. They're short and easy rather than sitting through a long hour and 20 long stream. So
yeah, I mean, that's the reality of it. People's attention spans these days are definitely a lot worse than they were back in the day, as you said. But you know, I try my best to kind of split up shows, but it's time consuming when you have to split up all those clips, because it's like you don't have, especially for me, I don't have all that time, but I try my best. So I know that, I mean, shorts are crazy. Like you said, you put them up and you get instant views. The only problem is you don't get the watch time hours on YouTube. And so it kind of is. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny because like if I could only hire a secretary to chop up snippets of my shows in the funniest moments and make those separate videos or separate shorts, I'd probably rack up so many views. But I don't have the time to do that myself. But if I had somebody out there willing to work for free to do so, I'd totally appreciate it. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. David McNiner said our 49ers are putting in work on tight ends for the draft. Yeah, that's a position where I think they could get in the 3rd round. I would rather the 5th round. But maybe if by pick number 101, there's so many tight ends off the board because everyone wants one, then yeah, maybe you pick one at that pick. East Coast Red and Gold podcast. I've never actually seen this guest before, so welcome to the stream. Thanks for supporting.
That's Jess, and Jess is over there. Ty is over there. I never collab with them, but I talked to Ty recently about trying to do a mock draft, and maybe I'll collab with these guys. Once again, I'll collab with numerous 49er podcasters, and not all of them, but a whole bunch of them, that's for sure. They're all good people. So.
Nice. I'll check them out for sure. So let's get to the next one here. We will get to the Los Angeles Rams, and this is a team like the Cardinals that basically need every position. So any way they go, they obviously have pick number 34, and then I'm trying to think here. Pick number 34, and then why didn't I write this down? I believe they have pick number, is it 60 something? It's in the 60s. I can look it up real quick.
According to PFF, it says 69, but sometimes 69. Sometimes they get their slotting wrong. But for sake of argument, we'll just say that maybe.
Yeah, 69. I don't know why I didn't pull that up, but I apologize, guys. So do you want to go first on this one, or should I name out my two? So
go ahead and you go first, and I'll follow it up.
Okay. Well, firstly, I think this is actually one of the prime teams. Let's start with the 2nd round. I think this is one of the prime teams to go and maybe trade up with the Eagles at that pick number 30. Obviously, it's not a huge jump. They would go from 34 to 30, but there are the Chiefs. In between that span, there are the Chiefs and the Texans. And the Chiefs need a right tackle. They could go and get DeJuan Jones. I'm just saying. And then the Texans need a cornerback. The Rams also need a cornerback. And if Cam Smith drops to pick number 30, then I think the Rams are going to trade up with the Eagles and get Cam Smith, cornerback out of South Carolina. And they're going to jump a few of the teams that are ahead of them, mainly the Texans, who I think might go and get a corner as well. If not, if they say, okay, Cam Smith is already off the board, let's go get our second need, which is right tackle, DeJuan Jones. Obviously, they have a pretty good right tackle, Havenstein, already, the Rams, but he did give up 6 sacks last year. And that wasn't bad. That's 15th in the league. So that's actually really good. But total pressures, he gave up 41 total pressures, which isn't great, Havenstein. So DeJuan Jones could be like a depth piece that maybe he needs some developing, but early second round, that would be great for me there. So, and then obviously, I think running back in the early third round would be preferred as well. They need running back there. So,
yeah. That would anger me if the Rams got DeJuan Jones. Not that I
yeah,
think the 49ers will get him or they have any opportunity to get him, but that's like in a dream world scenario, all these rumors going around like, oh, well, the 49ers are going to hold on to 11 picks, right?
yeah,
And then they're like, well, they may trade up and go here and do this. And like in the back of my head, like, oh, well, hey, if I don't want them to give up all their marbles, but they were to get DeJuan Jones and package some type of trade to get him, I'd be more than happy. But I definitely wouldn't want to see him go to the Rams. And the Rams obviously do need O-line help. I mean, there were times when they were playing guys at tackle who I'd never even heard of. And the football analyst in me kind of felt bad for him. But the Niner fan in me, was like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a cakewalk for guys like Bosa and company. So, I don't want them to get stronger at O-line, but obviously they will obviously draft O-line. I believe there's a running back from UCLA that supposedly that they might be
Zach Charbonnet. Yes.
Yeah, I had a hard time seeing the same. I believe the 49ers had a private workout for him too, but I think Todd McShay said that I found this mock that the Rams might be getting them. And I'll be honest, I have no, Zach Charbonnet from running back from UCLA. When it comes to other teams, I didn't really study their needs and wants. I know you hit me up with the thing, the heads up on questions and all that earlier today, but there had so much going on by the time I had that, so I didn't really have the time to stay focus on it. But I do know certain names of players coming out in the draft, so I'm not.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're totally fine, guys. In the stream, throw out questions that of the NFC West that obviously Bashar would know. I did not know this, so throw out questions there. We'll start though, since let's make this a little bit more 49ers centric. We'll start with what is your dream draft scenario for the 49ers? I know you've probably looked into it a lot more, the 49ers. So what is your dream draft scenario there?
Well, for me, the most important thing, as much as I want a nice pass rusher, we did draft one last year. And we lost McGlinchey. Not that McGlinchey was a world beater or anything like that, but it's a void at the position, right? I mean, some Niner fans are like, oh, I'm perfectly fine with penciling in McKivitz and letting McKivitz in there to be the man. And I'm iffy on that. I'll be honest. I've been iffy on it. I've said it multiple times. And I'd like a player with a much higher ceiling in there. Now, obviously, like, for example, we've had McKivitz for quite some time.
Yeah.
I've seen certain things about him. The last time he played, he looked okay. He didn't look bad. He looked terrible. But I never thought of him as a higher ceiling player either, So, for example, but we had a guy like Banks sit, and when they penciled him as a starter, I wasn't really too worried. A lot of people worried, but I knew this guy. I liked what I saw from Banks, for example, when we drafted him. And I know he didn't really play his rookie year. People were scared about it for him to replace Laken Tomlinson, but I had a feeling I just felt better about the whole Banks thing. But McKivitz, I'm still iffy on it, and I'd rather go. So my dream guy, I mentioned him earlier, DeJuan Jones. We're talking 6'8", 374 pounds, tackle from Ohio State. He's got upside, in my opinion. Ran a 5.35 40, but it's not always about 40 times with offensive linemen. When does an offensive lineman ever run 40 yards down the field? 1.92 10-yard split. That doesn't sound too bad. I'm not sure how that compares with other offensive linemen. But I mean, there's so many things I like about this guy. They said NFL comparison, Trent Brown. I mean, he's just a mountain of a man. His strengths, basically, some say that he's got he plays with good movement for a man his size. That's what I saw on film. Big dude, and he looked like he could move for his amazing size. Massive wingspan, overwhelms rushers with his hands. He displays the ability to slide up with the edge rushers. He runs his feet through contact. So when you're blocking somebody, a lot of people, their feet just become like stuck in the sand. An offensive lineman, and I knew this from playing the game as offensive lineman, you engage in your block, right? But especially on the running down, certain offensive linemen, a lot of times, and it's natural, you forget to keep your feet churning and keep your feet moving. And if you can engage and get a good hit on the block, and you always remind yourself to keep your feet moving and keep your feet churning, that's a plus. And it sounds like he has the ability to do that. It says he has massive hands. Weaknesses, they said he's got penalties. He tends to overset with his heels too close together. So it's, there's certain things that he can work on. There's pros and cons. A lot of people do regard Chris Forrester, as one of the better offensive line coaches in this league. I hope so. I don't know if he's on the level of Kosirik with the D lineman. I hope one day that we can either Forrester can progress to be that way, or hopefully we bring in somebody that can do that for the offensive line, because that would be great. NFL is a coaches league, but yeah, I mean, DeJuan Jones would be really, really nice. I don't know what they'd have to give up to get him, but hey, I wouldn't be mad.
You mentioned earlier that no offensive lineman runs 40-yard downfield. But do you remember the Saints game when I believe it? Yeah. And he got that penalty for the center, got the penalty for running. He basically ran because it's a play where the center gets out in front and leads the block. And this guy runs 30 yards downfield, the 49ers center, and just mauls. It was the.
Are you talking about Brendel? Which
I think it was Brent. No, it wasn't Brendel. It was against the Saints in 2019. It was after Richburg got injured. It was the backup that
What was that guy's name? Why am I forgetting his name? He played in the Super Bowl.
I can't remember.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So against the Saints, he runs 40 yards downfield because he's the lead blocker, and he just mauls the Saints safety way after the play is finished, because he doesn't know the play is finished because his back is to the main area of the play, and it's so hilarious. I mean, anyways, that's the only time that a player...
see this. I have to go back.
Yeah, I need to send you. I'll find it. I need to send you.
If you find it, you can send it to me. When you said Saints game, right away, the first thing that popped in my head was the 2011 playoff game when Alex Smith was still the quarterback, and Joe Staley ran out as a lead blocker, kind of on a sweep for Alex Smith, and Alex Smith ran into the end zone. I'm sure you might remember that play. If you don't remember, just go back to that crazy playoff game before the NFC Championship game, which was Kyle Williams game, which was the game I went to. I wish I went to the game against the Saints. But yeah, Joe Staley was a rarity, though. He could run like a 4.8 flat 40 or 4.77 40 at his amazing size. He's a former tight end in college, and when he first came to college, he was a tight end. Sometimes what they do with offensive linemen is they take tight ends and they bulk them up and they make them tackles. So
yeah, for sure. I think with the DeJuan Jones thing, to get back to that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he slips because there are some weaknesses in his game. Definitely speed rushers around the edge. I don't want to trust him with those. There are things where, like, he tends to definitely, because he doesn't have as much mobility as some of the tackles in the draft class, he definitely tends to kind of lunge at defensive ends, and that can create some imbalances in his game. And so where he can get like off balance quite often, but maybe he slips because of that. I really don't think he does. So it's like, at this point, I think the farthest the 49ers could maybe trade up is pick number, I think the 60 range. Like, you give up a third, 2/3, a third this year, you give up pick number 99, and then a third next year, and then a fifth in 2025, I think I did when I was mocking this, and then maybe a sixth in 2025. So I think the farthest the 49ers could probably get to is about the 60 range. And there, I think DeJuan Jones will probably be off the board. And so maybe if the 49ers make some type of trade, like with Trey Lance, I think they could get DeJuan Jones there. But I think that's the only way that they maybe get that done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's a guarantee that they trade. The only thing that tells me that they may trade is that, our 11 rookies really going to make this team.
Yeah.
And we're not just your average NFL team. We have a star-studded roster, a loaded roster at that. So if they really, really fall in love with somebody, though, maybe they do trade up to the 60s, 50s. I'd be shocked if it was in the 40s or 30s, though.
Yeah.
Or the first round, obviously. And even salary cap wise, would it really, really make sense for what they're doing in terms of the salary cap issues that they currently have to draft some players that would lead to a higher salary? So who knows?
You said, obviously, edge rusher you don't want to go for 2 years in a row, but if they do trade up into the 60s range, I really like Tuli Tuipulotu from USC, the edge rusher. Nice blend of speed and power, can play a little bit of inside. He has the power to play inside, and power through guards or centers and get to the running back on a running down. But then on the edge, he also has the speed. He extends his arm and then gets around the edge, has power that way. Has a really one-armed move. He'll stick the one arm into the offensive lineman and get around him with just sheer power. So he's kind of like a Charles Omenihu, like opposite to Nick Bosa. That would be great. Also, I do really like the guy. I don't know. I think, what do you think of, have you looked at the prospect, the safety from Illinois at all? His name is, oh my gosh, the safety from Illinois.
I know who you're talking about. Jalen something?
Hold on. Let me look it up.
I've seen him on the mock
Sidney
drafts
Brown.
over and over again.
Sidney Brown.
Sidney Brown. Okay. I've seen the
what
little
do you think
I've
of
seen,
him?
the little I've seen of him doesn't. I haven't really it wasn't enough, to be honest with you, to where I really fell in love with him. I've heard a lot of people hype him up and talk him up though. So I just didn't really focus so much on the safeties, I'll be honest. But that's definitely a name I did see, and a lot of people I know are definitely big on that pick. But do I think it's important to draft a safety in this draft? Of course I do, especially mainly a free safety. I don't want a strong safety. We need somebody in the future who can take over for when Tyshawn Gibson leaves. So I've heard a lot of good things about him. I heard he may possibly be available when we're picking at 99 or 101.
I personally think that there's a guy later on in the draft, and it's like, this guy, he's great, but it's like he's a box safety. He played most of his snaps there in college, and it's like, who takes up that role? And that's Talanoa Hufanga. So I just don't see the fit there. And it's like, I know there's a lot of hype on him, but I think a guy, if you go safety, it's either going to be weak side safety like Jartavius Martin from Illinois, or also a safety from Illinois. But I think they're going to be looking more for guys like the cornerback Corey Trice from Purdue. That guy's impressive. And so he's a cornerback. And I just think that slot corner and free safety is also is going to be something that we look for in this draft.
You did mention also about who would I trade up for, and if we were to go the edge route, so to speak, I didn't watch your USC guy. I'm curious to check him out. There's one guy that Larry Krueger brought up that I did actually take the time to watch and research, and I do like what I see from him, is Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame. He's a local kid. He went to De La Salle High School in Antioch, in Concord, and he obviously played for Notre Dame. And Larry compares him to Yannick Ngakoue. We'd obviously have to trade up for him, but I definitely like what I saw from him. And if we traded up and got him, and they thought he'd be a great fit for our defense, I totally welcome it, because I do want this pass rush to be bolstered. Now, we did get the guy from the Eagles whose name totally Hargrave. Yeah, we obviously got him for the pressure up the middle. And Drake Jackson, I wanted him to be really, really good last year. Actually, going into the season, it was a hot take because of the great things I heard in camp, because of what I saw in the preseason. I was like, I predict 10 sacks for Drake Jackson this coming season. And lo and behold, early on, it looked like he was coming along. And then lo and behold, they start benching him. And what's going on here? Down the stretch, he's not even playing. He's batting down passes at a high rate. I don't see what's going on here. They said they liked his bend. But I guess his body was kind of wearing down. His body wasn't ready for the rigors of the NFL. And so he's got to get that together. So I still don't know what we really, really have in him. Do I want him to succeed and be great? Yes, of course I do. But I'm kind of not ready to throw all my eggs in one basket with him. And I'm definitely up there with the old school football fans, old school NFL analysts that say you can never draft enough pass rushers. You can never have enough pass rushers. And, Jesus, if that one guy that you mentioned is the guy from USC, do you think he's better than Drake Jackson? Do you have any way to compare the two?
I think they're different builds, because Drake Jackson was more the build of a linebacker. This guy is more lengthy. I can look up. Hold on. I had I think it's on a separate sheet though over there. I can look up his. I have him on paper here, but let me
if you want to grab it, I can read some comments and we can go from there. If you feel like grabbing
real quick. No, I have it here. Let me see. I mean, he's definitely a lot more lengthy. Okay, let me quickly just grab it. Okay.
Okay, cool, cool. What are those Grandizers? You're saying Grandizers in the chat. What's up? He says a solo Bashar stream is called Bashar Unplugged. Maybe maybe if I was singing, I don't know. MTV Unplugged. I used to watch that back in the day. And he says, what does he say? He said there's a Seahawks content creator who drops like 10-minute videos on college prospects, really top notch, gets a lot of views. Okay, he knows his stuff, very informative. Drop his name. I wonder who you're talking about. Is it that Stevie A. Smith guy? Maybe that's the only Seahawks content creator that really comes to mind. There's another one whose name I totally forgot that actually works for a local Seattle news station. He's a Seahawks content creator as well, and he's actually. Do you know the guy's name? I'm not sure if you know of him. There's a guy, a Seahawks content creator, who actually works for the local Seahawks news. No, the local Seattle news station as well. But he's like basically a newscaster. But he's also a YouTube Seahawks content creator. I only mentioned it because Grandizer said there's some Seahawks content creator that puts out really cool 10-minute videos on college prospects. I'm not sure who he's referring to though.
It might be. I don't think it's Brandon Kane from Seahawks Nest. That's a really good content creator.
I think that's the guy I was thinking of, the guy who does the TV stuff.
It might be. Yeah. I don't think it's Noah Bolter, the guy from, I can't remember his channel, but Noah yeah, I think it's Noah Bolter. He does the Seahawks.
And there's a Stevie A. Smith guy or something. Or
yeah. I need to get more Seahawks guys on there. I mean,
I never collab with somebody from another fan base.
They're so knowledgeable and they give you some insight on another team. And if you ever can, I mean, look up or try to get Seahawks Nest or Seahawks Nester on Twitter, but the Hawks Nest is his YouTube name.
I remember Hawks Nest.
He's such a good, yeah, that was a lot of fun. He knows everything NFL, and that guy is just so knowledgeable. Man, he's probably the most knowledgeable guy that I've ever done a show with before. But real quick, I'm just trying to, yeah. So I think you were talking about Tui Pelotu, and here's my thing. He definitely has a lot more length. I don't have the measurables in front of me. I couldn't find the paper. I could quickly look it up, but that would be holding up the show. So Tui Pelotu is an impressive. He's more of a defensive tackle, defensive end type build. More like Drake Jackson's more of like a linebacker edge, like more, I don't know. He's a little bit smaller. So Tui Pelotu is more what I compare to like a Charles Omenihu type of guy, but his wingspan is great. So.
Sorry about that. I had myself muted.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to hear. Yeah. I mean, if we draft another pass rusher, we probably will. I just don't know if we're going to trade up and do it. But for example, if we stay put with our three picks at 99, 101, and 102, I guarantee you at least one of those is probably going to be a pass rusher. And I just don't see how they stick with 11 picks and they don't draft a pass rusher. There's a good number of guys we can get. Guys like Isaiah McGuire, Viliami, Fehoko from San Jose State. A lot of people are really high on Zach Harrison from Ohio State. I watched a little bit about him. I'm not a big Ohio State guy. I didn't really watch too many Ohio State games. Nothing against him. I just didn't really watch much college football. But a friend of mine's John V from Locker Room Rant. He's really big on Zach Harrison. Another friend of mine has watched a lot of college ball, and he's really big on Zach Harrison. I keep hearing some Bosa comparisons to him. I heard a Myles Garrett body type to him. I heard a lot of really good things about him. I saw some great things on film. But numbers wise, just looking at the numbers, black and white stats, I'm not really a huge stat guy, but I didn't see big sack numbers at all. I saw very low sack numbers. So I'm wondering if he's more of a pressure guy. I'm wondering if he's a guy that took up all kinds of crazy double teams. So I don't know. I heard a lot of really great things about him, but not sure. There's another guy, Andre Carter from Army, who's another edge prospect. His dad actually played for the 49ers. Well, it's Andre Carter, the third, or I believe, the one from Army. Yeah. And the dad played for UC Berkeley, and he was pretty good on the 49ers, actually. So he was a good edge. So that's another guy to keep your eye on. So we could go in so many different directions in terms of drafting edge.
Well, and a lot of people are saying, trade up for a right tackle, trade up for a right tackle. And I'm just like, there's not that many good right tackles out there.
It's a thin draft for
And
tackles.
even if you trade up for Blake Freeland, it's like I don't like him enough to where I'm gonna go up and get him. And it would almost be, if you're trading into the 60s range, you have to take best player available because anything else would be a reach. I think Blake Freeland would be a reach there. I just don't think he's worth it. I don't know, man. I don't think he's worth it there. So it's like I think the Niners are going to get Saladevry from Old Dominion. Look him up, right
Nick
tackle.
Saldiveri, I definitely know who he is.
Yeah.
From what I've
I
seen
think
him
101, pick 101, we would be able to get him.
I've seen that guy's name on different mock draft sites, and I'm still trying to figure out where is he gonna fall in the draft? Where is he what round is he gonna be in? I've seen him taken, I believe, as high as the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe even the 3rd round at times, as low as depending on what side I go on, as low as round 6 and maybe even round 7 on PFF a couple times. So I have no idea where people value the guy. I really don't. But if the 49ers value him higher and they look to get him at wherever they're picking, I'm not going to be mad. I do like him as a prospect. I just like him. I've watched a little bit of him. And Blake Freeland, the first time I heard about him, I kind of got excited. 6'8" guy, and then I clicked on some of his film, and I was like, I don't want to get too hyped about this guy now because I saw some shortcomings. Now, can the 49ers fix those things? Who knows? But hey, if we get him, I'll be all for. I don't know if we trade up to get him. And it just kind of scares me because he is 6'8", and then I'm going to go back to thinking about McGlinchey and how he had a hard time anchoring down and with the whole leverage thing. And who knows, man? Who knows what we could do? I wish it was a deeper tackle draft. I mean, I love offensive line. A lot of people don't think it's a sexy pick. I love offensive line, and I just wish it was. I wish there were more DeJuan Joneses, like 5 or 6 of them, so to speak. So it'll be much easier to get one.
Nick Saladevry, the thing is I don't know if he's going to go as high. I think at pick 101 is the perfect pick to get him, 101, 102, whatever. I mean, the problem with him is his arms are like, if you've ever heard of like Peter Skoronski, obviously you probably have, but if you look in more to Peter Skoronski, they almost have the identical arm size, both Saladevry and Peter Skoronski, 33 and 1/4 inches, which is in the 26th percentile of tackles in the NFL. And so that's not good. Saladevry would have to probably move to guard, but he has the speed. Like his get off is really good. So he has the speed where he probably could play right tackle. And that's where I'm saying, like, as a guy who he doesn't maybe have the measurables to play tackle at the next level, but in the 3rd round, end of the 3rd round would be a great place to pick him because he could play right tackle. And then you could also swing him across the offensive line. So.
Yeah, as far as offensive line goes, it's going to be interesting because at one point I was doing mock drafts where I was always drafting a right tackle, and I was always drafting a guard or a center, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking, since they locked Brendel in, that we may not draft a center. But then we recently signed that John Feliciano guy.
Yeah.
So basically the John Felicio signings tell me, okay, maybe they don't draft a guard. And I believe he's actually played center too. He's played almost every position. He's played every position on the O-line but right tackle. And some people were like, well, John Feliciano has started 15 games last year, and he's been a starter for multiple teams, and he didn't sign this contract with the 49ers to ride the pines. So there's that interesting then some people were like, oh, we'll just throw him in at right guard and then slide Burford to right tackle.
No,
and some people make it sound like it's so easy to just take a player at whatever position that they were prepped on all year long and just slide him over to the next position, and it's a piece of cake. And it's not always that easy to do so. And I like Burford, but I don't know if he'd be a good right tackle in the NFL. I just don't. Yeah, so other offensive linemen out there, it could go so many different ways, and it's just, again, like, it's not really that thin. It's just thin at the right tackle position. So who knows, man? Maybe it is Nick Saldiveri, Old Dominion. They do have an opportunity to get him from most of the mock drafts that I've been looking at. So,
yep, for sure. Brendan Nelson, yes. So Brendan Nelson, actually, that was the name. But Brendan Nelson, actually, he does a show with the Hawks Nest. So they kind of both collab quite a bit. But yeah, I haven't actually looked much into him, but I know who he is. 49ers news, wide receiver Chris Conley signs 1-year deal with the 49ers. Conley. I know I've heard of him, but I'm pretty sure he's a pretty old receiver there. But yeah, let's move on. We need to get off of this topic. So let's see here. Do you want to get two ideal draft scenarios for the Seahawks, or move on to more 49ers content?
We can kind of move on. Really quick, when I was talking about the Seahawks content creator that I kept mentioning, I totally forgot his name. I think you said his name too. Just to clarify, the guy I was talking about who does TV work, he's a broadcaster on the news in the local Seattle area. It's Noah Bolter, if I'm saying his last name right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the guy.
Yeah. I've done a show with him. Yeah.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
So he's a TV guy as well as a YouTube guy, which is pretty cool, actually. And if you want to touch on the Seahawks really quick, go ahead and I'll try to chime in a little bit. I just haven't really followed, honest to God, from the first round and the second round, because I know we're not going to get anybody from those rounds unless we make some drastic trade. Normally I study those rounds, but this year I didn't. So, but if you want to go ahead and touch on it a little bit, and I'll chime in a little bit and see what I can say.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Seahawks there, the realistic thing would be Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson. I like Tyree Wilson more than Will Anderson, and I know Will Anderson is the consensus defensive lineman, but I like Tyree Wilson more. His measurables are off the charts. Tyree Wilson has long arms, big body, and it's just you can't pass up a guy like Tyree Wilson when his talent and his measurables are off the charts. I think with Will Anderson, it's like he was good, but a lot of that production was done because Tyree Wilson had a lot less talent around him. And to quickly give you guys like a little bit of measurable point, 6'6", which is in the 99th percentile. He's the defensive end from Texas Tech, obviously, but hands 9 inches and 5/8, which that's not huge hands, but that's not a huge, like when you're playing defensive end, hand size isn't the most important thing, but his arm length is in the 96th percentile, 35 and 5/8 inches, which is his arm length. So really just a great measurable type of player. And if you look at him, he has speed plus power. I like him better than Will Anderson. But I would say with them, if they stay at number 5, which I think they will, their ideal draft scenario would be Tyree Wilson. And then at number 20, I think you go best player available here, which is the Seahawks a year ago had to go needs in the draft. They had to go need over best player available because they were bad. But this year, I think they can go best player available. And if Zay Flowers, the receiver from Boston College, falls to them, this guy will be picked by the Seahawks because he had 12 TDs, over 1,000 yards, and just pair him. He's like a Deebo Samuel almost. He's 5'9". He's a light guy. But he at the combine measured in and he had bulked up a lot more weight. So he's what I call like a do-it-all type of player. And he reminds me a lot of Deebo Samuel. He's a speedster, but he can also run like a running back. He has really good. He's a violent player, can catch it over the middle. So put that in a Seahawks system, and I love that type of what he would do in the Seahawks system.
Got it. And I see the Seahawks have 2 first rounders and 2 second rounders. I don't like that. As a 49er fan, I do not like that. But yeah, the guy that you mentioned is funny because the comparison that you were making over Will Anderson over Tyree Wilson, I'm just going off of what NFLDraftBuzz.com is. They were rating they completely have Will Anderson over Tyree Wilson. I know he ran a faster 40, and I'm just talking about because they have this ranking system with our percentages and productions. It says 94% pass rush, 97% run defense for Will Anderson, and for Tyree Wilson, for comparison's sake, they're saying 84% pass rush and 80% run defense. So that's their rating system. Just throwing that out there. But you like the player, everybody's going to like their players over other players, and I get that. And I do see the Seahawks going with defense. Now, could they go quarterback though? Could they go quarterback?
I don't think so. I mean, I like if they could get Hendon Hooker in the second round, that would be great. I think he's not. I don't know. Will Levis, I could go into this. This is probably another discussion for another day. I don't like Will Levis. I don't really. I think Hendon Hooker is better than Will Levis, and if Hendon Hooker falls to the second round, that'll be a steal of a quarterback. So I don't think they go. I don't think they go quarterback in the first round. I would say with Tyree Wilson though, I like that length ability and the just the weight ability and how fast he can move for being that size is going to be dangerous in the NFL. So that's the only thing I like about him. But
Yeah. But you don't think they would like any of the quarterbacks with pick number 5 at all?
no.
I mean, I know it's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Anderson. Those names have been flying around.
Yeah.
Anthony
yeah,
Anderson,
but I think 2 or 3 of those guys will be gone before the Seahawks pick. And
okay.
at
So
this point, yeah, at this point, I just think that if they can get Hendon Hooker, Hendon Hooker, yeah, in the second round, they would do that. If not, then you wait till next year and you get another quarterback. I don't think so.
I see this mock draft where I know they are rumoring that the Raiders would pick a quarterback at number 7, Will Levis or Will Levis, if that's his name, from Kentucky. Do you know anything about him, or that's the first time I'm running across his name?
Big arm, but he does need to. He kind of reminds me of just like a gunslinger type of guy that needs to get better at his short and intermediate accuracy. Again, his athletic traits are off the charts, but he had 10 interceptions in college last year for Kentucky. And 9 the year before. So out of any quarterback in this class, he has turned it over the most. It's just like you question his decision-making there. And I mean, Hendon Hooker was a top 15 pick before he had that ACL injury. And I think his stock is slowly starting to rise because now he's expected to be back by week 1 of the NFL season because of that ACL injury. So I think his stock is starting to rise. And yeah, I think the Seahawks would love to have Hendon Hooker. Look him up. He's a great.
You got all these draft picks down, man. You really put in the time and the work to steady up on all these prospects. That's pretty good. Usually I'm like that. The Niners are picking rounds 1 and 2. I'm like that. But this year I was like, they're not even picking those rounds. I got lazy.
Yeah.
Didn't even bother. To answer your question, Grandizer 12.
Yeah.
You said Noah Bolter. Is that the Squabo Says guy? I believe that is the same guy that we were talking about earlier. He used to go by that nickname.
Squabo Says. Oh, really? He doesn't?
I'm not sure. Well, I clicked on his YouTube channel like 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago. I didn't see the Squabo name on there. So I think he may have changed it. But I do remember him as that before. A lot of Seahawks attention on this show.
Yeah, I mean, I like going behind enemy lines and really just dissecting that because it's definitely intriguing to say the least. But so last topic of the day before we get you out of here. What are some guys that the 49ers could draft in the later rounds or the later parts of this draft? Before we get into that, though, guys, I'm going to be having a show tomorrow with John Chapman. And so if you guys are watching this right now, please go check that out tomorrow at 4:20 Pacific time. That's going to be a great show with John Chapman. So go check that out. I'll have the stream up tonight. But anyways, guys,
interesting time signature there.
Yeah, that's a big guest, and I want to have a good fan turnout for that one because
Chapman's awesome, man. I did a mock draft with him last year. It was great.
Talking to him.
Chapman's awesome. I feel like I should contact him again and try to do another one this year or do something with him this year, maybe before or after the draft. He's awesome. With the Niners, who do I like in this draft? I mentioned some pass rushers earlier. Go through it again. If we get Isaiah McGuire, Fehoko, Harrison, I'm not going to be mad at any of those picks. Andre Carter the third, I believe, or Andre Carter the second. One of those. I'm not going to be mad at any of those guys. I've watched a lot of them. I like what I've seen with those guys. Now a lot of people don't. They're not thinking that we draft a wide receiver, but I think we do, obviously, because who knows what's going to happen with Debo or Ayuk in the future, money wise. I'm assuming the cap doesn't skyrocket like they expect it to, and things are definitely iffy with the way the cap may be in the future. Who knows? But if they say, hey, let's draft a wide receiver, if it's Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss, that's one of my draft crushes. And even though he's not expected to go high, now I haven't really studied him too much in terms of full game film to watch his misses, his lowlights, but his highlights and his body type, the way he's built, the way he looks when he goes for the ball, the way he looks when he has the ball in his hands, it's in my head, it's screaming poor man's version of AJ Brown. Poor man's version of AJ Brown. I like what I see in this guy a lot. Do the 49ers like him? Who knows, man? The 49ers look at so many things, character and all that other stuff, scheme and all that other stuff. So that's definitely a guy I like to get. Running backs. Running backs not a pressing need for the Niners. We got CMC, right? But you never know what could happen with Elijah Mitchell. Is he going to be with his team anymore? Do they trade him? Do they let him go? Who knows? A lot of people miss that Raheem Mostert aspect of this offense. When Mostert, we did get CMC. CMC every now and then can do those Mostert type things. And obviously he does way more than Mostert in other aspects. I get that. But as far as that pure explosive outside zone type running speed, Izzy from Penn State. No, sorry, from Pennsylvania. No, from Pittsburgh in the state of Pennsylvania, the blue and gold team. Israel Abanakanda, if I'm saying his name right.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's got some size on him. So Mostert didn't look like a running back to me. He never looked like a running back to me. He looked like a defensive back or a wide receiver. But Mostert was really, really explosive. I like this guy better than Mostert in some ways now, as far as just on the surface, that is. He's built more like a running back. He's 210. And he's just got the same type of explosiveness that I like. Now, another guy who's fun to watch is Deuce Vaughn, that running back. Forgot what school he goes to. I've watched him a lot, actually. Kansas State, I think.
I can look him up. I haven't delved a ton into running backs. It's been more for me cornerback.
Kansas State.
Receivers.
It's Kansas State. Kansas State Wildcats. Okay. NFL comp on him, he's like a Darren Sproles type.
Yeah.
Super exciting, super breakaway speed, and excellent receiver out of the backfield. Problem is he's only 175 pounds soaking wet, 5'5". He's not going to block anybody. No block, no rock, so it doesn't really sound like he's a 49er type player or who they like to get, but I'm sure he could be a really nice playmaker if we got him. So guys like that, and there's a couple other running backs, but there's some cornerbacks. Tomlinson coming out. This guy is like a really, really nice playmaker. He's not a big guy. What's his first name? I'm trying to remember. Is it Trevor Tomlinson?
I would hold on, let me see here.
Trevius Tomlinson. Trevius Hodges Tomlinson. Yeah. I've watched a lot of him.
He's more of a third round guy. Actually early third.
From TCU. I like him a lot.
I think we'd have to trade up to get him.
Really? Because it depends on what mock draft you do, but the ones that I have done, he's definitely on some of them been available where we pick in the 99 to 100 at 101 range. So you never know what happens in real life, though, in the real life scheme of things. So
he's a guy who could be very valuable. He plays every position, and his speed is really impressive. His ball skills are really impressive. I would have to have. Let me see here. Do I have him in this book? I definitely spent a fair amount of time looking up. Yeah, here he is. 5'9", physical. Really, really, really good technique when in coverage, when he's covering as a cornerback. And his 40 time is a 4.41, which is really good. And if you want a true press man-to-man guy who can keep up every step with the receiver, that's a guy you want. So I like that Hodges Tomlinson guy for sure. I'll kind of throw out a name there. Marvin Mims. Definitely a pure deep receiver, but his yak yardage is, I think it's like somewhere around 8 yards per, yards after the catch. So his yards after catch is really impressive. But the problem with him, obviously, is he's 5'11", 183 pounds. So I don't know and he's a deep threat, Marvin Mims. But we could get him in the 5th round as one of those flyer picks. And I mean, if you want him for yak yardage, like kind of yak yardage, you throw him a screen, he takes it, or you give him an end around. That's a guy too that I would definitely be intrigued by. His drop rate is only a 6.9%, which isn't well, it's actually, I mean, that's not that great, but yeah, I mean, his contested catch rate is 54.5%. So definitely can go up there and get catches there as well. So up
I'll check
there,
him out.
high point.
Grandizer had a question for you in the chat.
Yeah. Here. So let's get to the comments a little bit. No Border Sports says,
what up, Brian?
Is up? What up, everyone? Thank you for popping in. Grandizer said, still waiting for the camp report to go overseas and get the Roar of the Lions UK on his stream. I would have to look him up. Saturday morning, ? And Megan Gawkroger, Australia Seahawks. Okay, I'll look them up.
Grandizer's up to date. Yeah, he's really up to it with all the content creators he's aware of. That's for sure. Who's his team? He's not a 49er fan, is he?
He's a Dolphins fan. So.
Oh, okay. There you
go. Coach Dante says, what up? Thanks for joining the stream. I think I've seen you once or twice here. Let's see. Ben, you can drop which channel you're going live on tomorrow so we can set the notifications, get the notice via YouTube community section to support you. Yeah, I will. I usually do that between each show. So I'll definitely do that again, but yes. Deuce Vaughn, Kansas State, he said, which was your response. I've seen a little bit of that running back. I haven't really delved too deep into running backs this year because I'm like, hopefully they draft one only in the 6th or 7th round. I mean, that's where I would prefer.
Nobody wants him in the 3rd round. Everybody's going to get mad. I won't get mad though if it's our 3rd pick in the 3rd round, if it's Israel, and I think he'll be good enough to break that curse.
Here's my thing. I think my ideal first 3 picks are edge rusher or cornerback. Trade up and get an edge rusher or cornerback, pick number 1. Pick number 2, which would be at 101, would be right tackle. Just a guy who kind of slips there, who has upside, but, you know, when you're picking there, you're not going to get a ton of right tackles. And then pick 102, I would want a tight end or a receiver or some skill position player there. Because I think the tight ends are intriguing this year. I'd really like Davis Allen from Clemson. Or also, obviously, you've heard of Josh Wiley, but I don't know.
I keep hearing about Wiley. Chapman keeps talking about him.
Yeah.
The guy I like, no, Laporta obviously is the one I like the most, but we're not going to get him. Zach Kuntz, we'd have to trade for Laporta.
Yeah.
Who knows if Kuntz is going to be available when we pick? He might be, so he's another guy to look out for.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we get out of here, do you want to quickly touch on the Dorian Thompson-Robinson thing? We don't have to spend long on this topic. I know you have places to be, but the 49ers have met with Dorian Thompson-Robinson multiple times. I think for my thing, I think the highest they draft a quarterback is the 5th round. And I saw something, shout out Grant Cohn, but I don't know. It just, I watch his videos and I mean, he was seeming to say that Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to go in the 3rd round. I really don't think so, because past the 1st or 2nd round, you really never see in any draft, even decent quarterbacks going in the 3rd round. It's just like, it's almost like after the 1st round, every team is like, okay, that's it. There's nobody really worth it. And then you might see a quarterback drafted in the 4th round. So it's like, after the 1st or 2nd round, usually teams start to say, okay, we're going to go with other positions other than this position because there's no really surefire prospects here. So why waste a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a guy who really isn't guaranteed to be much? So I just don't agree with the narrative of he's going to go Dorian Thompson-Robinson in the 3rd round. I think he's probably a 5th round guy, which is where the 49ers could get it.
And I'll be honest, I don't want to draft a quarterback. I do not want to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
After we signed Darnold, I think Darnold's more than capable as if he's going to be the main backup if Purdy's not physically ready to come back, or if they stash him away as a 3rd quarterback, fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's the best case scenario, in my opinion. but I don't want us to draft a quarterback. I think, now we do have a lot of picks. I get that. But for example, if we do trade up to get certain players like another edge or a possible right tackle, we're going to be a bit more thin on the picks. And I don't want to draft a quarterback. I think you can get an undrafted free agent perhaps. And I don't know. I don't, again, they met up with him multiple times. It's kind of weird. It's making me think like, oh great, we're gonna draft another quarterback. Like I don't want it. I just don't want it. So I don't have much to say about his game. I didn't watch him. I didn't scout quarterbacks because that's the position I do not want to go for.
I mean, he's a good. I mean, he was a 4-year starter, I believe, at UCLA. But I'm like, if they draft one in the 3rd round, that would be absolutely bizarre. I don't think they do that though. That's not like them. I think they're probably expecting, if they're meeting up with him this many times, that means they've kind of poked around the league and they're expecting him to go 5th or 6th round. A guy at the very end of the draft that I kind of like is Max Duggan from TCU. And obviously, there's not a lot of hype around him, and he's probably almost going to be an undrafted free agent or end of the 7th round. But Max Duggan to me is really intriguing because he
I don't know if I'm still live. It looks like he may have froze unless I lost my internet connection. I'm not sure how this one's working. Oh, there you are. Maybe you did freeze.
Did I cut up?
I heard you say Max Duggan, and then your video just froze. That's what I heard.
Okay. Well, interesting. But anyways, Max Duggan, a guy who led TCU for the first time to the college football playoffs in a while, led them and went to the national championship. And he did some really good things against Michigan. So he could be a flyer guy that you could get at the end of the 7th round. So
that's cool. That's fine, Dan. And if we do in the 7th round, I'm not gonna, cry over spilled milk or anything like that. I mean, I'm one of the guys out there who, after we signed Zane Gonzalez, we traded for him. I'm like, okay, let's not draft a kicker. Some Niner fans are banging the table. Jake Moody this, Jake Moody that. I'm like, whatever. We got Zane Gonzalez. I mean, I'm fine with that. Kickers don't really hold much value for me, in my opinion. I don't really consider them as football players. And the fact that Zane Gonzalez can actually do kickoffs properly, I'm like, okay, cool. On gold may be gone. Okay, whatever. I can live with that. I don't want to kick field goals. I want to score touchdowns. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everyone, if you don't have any more comments, we'll get out of here. One more time, 49er Minded or aka Bashar. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, pretty easy to find me. You can go on my Twitters at 49er Minded. It's right there below my name, and you just add me on Instagram. There's a 49er Minded group page on Facebook as well. So yeah, do a lot of Niner content. Obviously, we did the pro wrestling show earlier today based on pro wrestling nostalgia. I may possibly do some Warrior streams. I didn't do them any yet for the season, but who knows? Maybe as a season closer, I may bring on Cyrus or some known Warrior guy that covers the Warriors. So we'll see. And I'm obviously going to be doing some more mock draft shows leading up to the mock draft. I just don't have any set in stone for the next few days just yet. But when they do pop up, just get on my social media, get on my Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because on the community tab, as soon as I drop the dates and the times, I'll have them on there. So
yeah, obviously I'll go check it out. So you guys in the audience should too.
On Monday, I'm going to be hosting a NWO podcast, some show that we do, the collaboration with me, Aaron 49ers First Takes, Beto Niner Sickness, and Ryan from No Border Sports. So on Monday, I'm going to be hosting that one as well at 6:00.
Nice. Okay, go check that out, everyone. I will definitely go check that out as well. Grandizer real quick. 49ers probably draft Emmanuel Wilson, running back, Fort Valley State, 6'1", 220, late round pick. HBCU product, interesting pick. Okay. I'll check him out. Okay. Well, everyone, this has been a great show. I'll be back tomorrow with John Chapman, and then on Monday to do my final first round mock draft. And then I'll probably do another 49ers mock draft sometime right before the draft. So go check those. Stick around for those type of shows. Keep your eye out for those type of shows. I'll be back, everyone. And then obviously I'll be posting show notes in the description after this stream ends. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Go Niners.